So Catherine's a motivated leader with experience in federal and state government agencies and has led change management, developed legislation and upheld compliance and monitoring of government agencies and its systems. She's currently the director of the Nature Repair Committee at Kew, and Catherine and her team are working to establish an independent and expert committee to support the functioning of the nature repair market, which will be the world's first legislated voluntary biodiversity market. So Catherine's well placed to give us an update on where the Australian government's nature repair market is up to. Thanks very much, Catherine. Thank you.
Lovely. So thanks very much for the warm welcome, Rachel, and delighted to be here with such a big audience of people from all over Australia. I'd like to associate myself with Rachel's acknowledgement of country there. I'm also speaking today from Ngunnawal and Ngambri country here in Canberra. So the nature repair market. I'm not sure what you've heard about it before, but we are. It's part of a much bigger initiative across the Department of Climate Change, Environment, Energy and Water called the Nature Positive Plan, which was launched in December 2022. Now I'm hoping that there we go. So the Nature Positive Plan is just one part of Australia's, it's the government's big environmental initiative for the Australian government. The plan sets out the government's commitments to protect and restore and manage our unique environment. And there are a number of different major initiatives being carried out under the umbrella of this plan, including reforming the Environment Protection and Biodiversity Conservation Act, which is our principal federal environmental legislation, establishing Environment Information Australia, which is a division within my department to provide trusted sources of high quality environmental information, and establishing a national environmental protection agency to enforce the laws and to restore confidence in government's regulation of the environment. The 30 by 30 commitment to conserve 30% of Australia's land and waters by 2030 also falls under this umbrella. So the Nature Positive Plan is the overall policy initiative, and within that, the nature repair market is all about drawing private sector investment into repairing and protecting our environment. And that's what we're all about. So there are a number of objectives of the nature repair market, and these include promoting the enhancement and protection of biodiversity and native species in Australia, and creating a nationally consistent framework to describe and measure biodiversity outcomes, and also enabling biodiversity certificates describing biodiversity projects to be purchased and transferred and publicly tracked. There's also a very important part of the nature repair market is the role of First Nations people and communities and the roles that they will play once the market has launched. And First Nations ecological knowledge will be incorporated into some of the key instruments of the market. And also we anticipate that First Nations people who are quite major landowners in Australia will want to begin projects and do biodiversity restoration projects on their own lands. So who can participate in the nature repair market? All landholders in Australia, including First Nations people. If you have freehold land, you can participate, or native title land, or if you're working on that land with the consent of the owner. And projects can be carried out on land, on inland waters, and in marine and coastal environments out to the 12 nautical mile mark and around Australia's territories as well. There's no maximum or minimum area of a project set out by the Nature Repair Act, but methods made under the Nature Repair Act may set out project sizes for the particular habitat or the particular type of activity the method deals with. And some methods will require a project plan to be lodged when an application is made to launch, to register a nature repair project. So I'll move on now just to some of the details about how the market will work. So the cornerstone of the market are these biodiversity projects to be carried out on land to enhance or protect biodiversity and native species. They'll need to be made consistently with a nature repair market method, and they'll need to be registered by the Clean Energy Regulator, who's the regulator for the overall scheme. Some methods will require project plans to be lodged, and they may have details about factors specific to the site of the project. The biodiversity methodologies that I talked about will apply to a particular type of project, whether it's in a particular area or a particular kind of activity. They'll set out requirements for managing and reporting, assessing and monitoring everything to do with that project. And so what sort of reporting will need to be made by the project owner to the clean energy regulator. They may incorporate documents as well. And methods will be a legislative instrument that'll be approved by our minister and on the advice of the Independent Nature Repair Committee, which is a committee of people with different expertises set up to advise her about that. Biodiversity certificates. So once, if you have a biodiversity project, you've had it registered by the Clean Energy Regulator, and then you go away and you plant the trees, or you control the pests, or you bring in the fences, whatever activities are required to be done to improve biodiversity according to the project. And then you can go back, once you see a biodiversity gain, or you can anticipate one, you go back to the Clean Energy Regulator and apply for the issue of a biodiversity certificate. And these certificates will be tradable personal property. One certificate will be issued for every project, and there are key attributes of projects which will be listed on the certificate, which will enable buyers to compare different kinds of projects and decide which sort of certificates they're most interested in. So integrity and transparency are absolutely critical to the nature repair market, and they're ensured within the framework in a number of different ways. The first way is that we, and something that differentiates the nature repair market from other kinds of biodiversity schemes currently existing, is that this one is legislated. And we do like to tell people this is the world's first national voluntary legislated biodiversity market. So the Nature Repair Act, which passed in December 2023, sets out the basics of the nature repair scheme. Under this Act will be made some statutory rules, and we'll be consulting about those rules in coming months. And then there will also be a biodiversity assessment instrument made under the Act, and that'll be made by the Minister as well. And that will set out how we measure biodiversity and how we measure change in biodiversity under the legislation. Then there'll be public registers managed by the Clean Energy Regulator, and they will allow anyone to check on the ownership of projects and the ownership of certificates. And anyone will be able to look at those, and they'll make sure that there's a way to check claims being made about those projects. Owners of certificates will be able to make public claims about the kind of nature repair that they are investing in. And we'll issue some guidance on the best way to make claims about your project and to make accurate claims, so that people are, able to talk about what they've done. There are compliance and insurance mechanisms contained within the Act to ensure that projects deliver the way that they're expected to. And the Clean Energy Regulator has a full suite of regulatory powers. So they'll be able to advise people if they need to bring a project back on track. They'll be able to undertake audits. There are reporting requirements to the Clean Energy Regulator, and they'll be able to notify people if they need to bring their project back into compliance. The government's also seeking and has to seek under the legislation independent advice to assist it in setting up the market. So there are a number of scientific experts we consult with to make sure that we're getting the science right. It's one of the key parts of the market is that it's based on the latest good environmental science. And also the Act requires that we set up a nature repair committee. And that committee has to be a committee of respected experts. And they have really a diverse range of expertises. Some will be expert in environmental science and in First Nations ecological knowledge. Others will be experts in, they're either economists or agricultural experts. So there's a wide range of expertises that the Act says are needed on that committee. And we're currently working at the moment to set that committee up. The committee will be advising the Minister on the making of methods and on the making of the biodiversity assessment instrument, and will also be reviewing various parts of the scheme as it matures. As we were working on the early stages of policy development for the market, the Department or it was a previous department then, set up some biodiversity stewardship pilots. So pilots which were carried out on farms by farmers who applied to join the scheme. And they were meant to trial different biodiversity approaches and methods to get ready for the market. So there was the carbon and biodiversity pilot, which trialled how market arrangement could create new income from plantings that deliver biodiversity improvements and carbon abatement, and the Enhancing Remnant Vegetation pilot, which also trialled ways to pay landholders to improve the quality and extent of remnant vegetation on their properties. These pilots have been going for a couple of years now and are starting to produce biodiversity improvements where they have been. And we have learned a number of lessons from the pilots. These learnings were consolidated into a review, and we're using this to guide this as we continue to develop the nature repair market. One of our key takeaways was that access to upfront capital can be a barrier to landholders undertaking carbon and biodiversity projects. Many of the landholders who applied for our pilots were already interested in biodiversity projects, but they needed the funding to get the project off the ground. And not all landholders had access to that upfront capital required. Reliable advice is also really important for landholders to be able to have the confidence to participate. So applying for the pilots was simple for some landholders, but others really valued being able to speak to one knowledgeable person repeatedly throughout the process. They needed help with their planning projects, making decisions about projects and implementing them, including with the Clean Energy Regulator registration process for landholders who participated in the carbon and biodiversity pilot. We've learned in the last couple of years that there's no one-size-fits-all approach to market participation. So landholders need flexibility to grow their confidence and to manage risk in a new market. And also that managing a project is dynamic, and landholders have valued being able to vary their projects because of unexpected changes like shortages of seed and seedlings, or new expert advice, such as a planting contractor arriving on farms and saying, this is a salt lake and trees won't grow here. So being able to be flexible, which you could be under this program, was really important. And we also understand that projects are complicated and that poor understanding of project requirements could result in lengthy delays getting a project underway. We know it's important to explore opportunities to reduce unnecessary complexity associated with participation and reduce transaction costs. So yeah, there was this review done of these projects, and these were the key learnings we got from that. Another exciting development I can share with you this week is that we have relaunched a platform that was used for those agriculture biodiversity stewardship pilots, and it's been relaunched as Planner, the platform for land and nature repair. And this is a user-friendly planning tool for biodiversity and carbon projects, which has a suite of tools to make it easier for landholders to learn about market opportunities. So please, it's www.planr.gov.au. Please go and have a play. Tell us what you think. Additional features are being developed, and we welcome any feedback. If you've already checked out what's live on it now, we recommend taking another look as we keep adding tools and plan to include a range of information over time. But this will enable you to plan a project, to estimate emissions, and ultimately it's intended to form a way for prospective buyers and prospective sellers to connect. So key features are set out here. There's a biodiversity calculator, project mapping tool, a greenhouse gas calculator, the buy and sell bulletin board, and a virtual logbook. So just wrapping up now, just to let you know a little about the process that's we're going through as we get ready for the opening of the nature repair market. Starting back in December 2023, when the Nature Repair Act was passed by both Houses of Parliament and made law. Now we're working to establish the Nature Repair Committee. And shortly we'll be consulting on rules and instruments, and that consultation will be going on throughout the rest of the year. We will have a mailing list, which there's an address for, I'll show you in a minute. And if you're interested to be consulted or just to know what's happening, please send us your email address and we'll add you to the mailing list and let you know when consultations are happening. We are and will continue to engage with stakeholders about methods and our biodiversity assessment approach. And later in the year, when the Nature Repair Committee's been formed, it will consider methods developed by this department. And then a date for the opening of the market hasn't been announced, but we understand around 12 months after the legislation passed, the scheme will open for applications. So that is us, and please find our email address here, and don't hesitate to email us if you have questions, if you'd like us to present to your organisation, or if you just want to sign up to our mailing list. Thank you.
Fantastic. Thanks, Catherine. I'll just get you to